Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of the Mysterious Pals Show, a show about mystery, history, and two pals hanging out in my basement. My name is Chris, and I'm here with my best pal and your best pal, Jordan. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Great. You know, last episode we talked about my
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Yeah. I'm so I was towards the end of the first season, and now I'm into the beginning of the third season, and second season, third season seemed pretty good.
Okay.
Seems like the first season was a little ramp up, but I think it's getting, it's hitting that like, okay, now we're getting to a lot of stuff going on, kind of bigger scope of the show, and more, the character of Walter White gets kind of more complicated. And
okay. I'm trying to remember what happens in start of season 3.
A lot of stuff with Jesse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, he's fine.
Yeah.
I think he is kind of a whiny baby a lot of times.
Yeah, but it's understandable.
Yeah, it seems it's his relationship with his parents, I think, is kind of realistic, in the way that they kind of portray that. But I think in general, I think he's a whiny little baby.
Yeah, and it definitely gets ramped up later on.
And Walter seems like a little baby too.
Yeah,
like
he's dying.
I mean,
we all are, I guess.
He's at the tail end of that. I mean, I believe.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I think. I mean, he obviously, if there's 5 seasons, he doesn't die. Maybe he does at the end. I don't know.
Okay,
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Right. Yeah, we won't go there.
Anyway, it's still, just living up to its. I think it is deserving of the praise that it gets. Because if I say that I don't really like it, then probably the internet will burn my house down.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it gets better, and I'm excited to get through that journey together with myself.
Definitely one of those shows that you can't say anything bad about without feeling the wrath of the internet.
Yeah. So,
but it's good. It's good. It's all justified.
Yes. In any case, this episode today, episode 4, is an episode where Jordan is going to be presenting a mystery to us. And Jordan, please tell me what we're going to be talking about today.
The mystery this week is why my father won't hug me.
Listen, I know your dad. He hugs you. He's a nice guy. He's a pinnacle of dads.
Yeah, old Jambone.
Yeah.
No, so this topic we're going to be dealing with, the mystery is assassination or suicide.
Assassination or suicide.
Yes, nothing to do with my father. He's a lovely man.
Lovely.
I'm just trying to make light
the most beautiful man.
Trying to make light of this because we're going down a road we haven't really gone down before. This is deep conspiracy theory type of stuff. It gets pretty heavy. So we're going to be dealing with a few decades. Cold War era.
Cold War.
Kind of starts out in. So we're dealing with, during this time, a lot of people, there's that doom of imminent nuclear war. Everyone's on edge. The global powers, the United States and the Soviet Union, are lobbying for power in all the different other countries that have since been liberated, or these new countries that came after World War II. They're kind of all jockeying to have their own political influence in these countries. So you have like kind of democracy versus
communism.
Communism, yeah, not communism, communism. So this particular instance
communism will get you too.
Yeah, this particular instance in the world deals with Nicaragua. Around 1979, there was a revolution where a group called the Sandinistas took power, and they were mostly considered left. So they kind of aligned politically with communism. And they took power. They needed some kind of help, aid to sustain their power, to stay in power. So rather than looking to the West, the United States, they looked to the East, as in the Soviet Union and Cuba. This kind of freaked out the U.S. government at the time because, again, this is the Cold War. Nicaragua's, South America. They're thinking if it goes as Nicaragua, communism kind of slowly move up to Mexico, so possibly the United States, and what's going to happen to the U.S. government because of that,
So we're talking about a country in North and South America.
Yes.
And what year was this?
1979.
1979.
This carries over through the 80s.
And this group, this political group trying to take power.
Sandinistas, yeah.
When is the Cuban Missile Crisis? Is that in the 80s?
61.
Cuban. Okay, JFK.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when this first started, it was Jimmy Carter was president, but most of this takes place during Reagan's.
So this is, after the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, so we'll go into a little bit. So
obviously people were freaked out.
Yeah, there's a very like-minded thing going on here. So what ends up happening is the United States doesn't directly get involved, but they're like, we can't have communism coming this close to our southern borders.
America's pretty good at doing that, like being like, we don't want
there's walls
behind,
But usually what happens with communism, they kind of saw this in Cuba when Cuba became, during the revolution when Castro took over, what ended up happening, a lot of the goods and a lot of industry that we had in Cuba was nationalized. So the Cubans took it over. They made it their own, kind of kicked everyone out. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's a bad thing. So the fear now, because Cuba is only 90 miles off the coast of Florida. So the fear now is that Cuba's already there. They've been around like 50s, 60s with Castro. The fear now is that, it's in South America as well. Like we're being surrounded by all sides from communism.
And it wasn't like it wasn't like these groups weren't in all the countries, every country.
No.
Groups that wanted to go more communist.
Sure.
But it's just
That's what worked for them at the time.
The power.
Yeah.
Now this one group is coming into power.
Sure. And a lot of these countries are new. A lot of them are still trying to figure stuff out, just like the United States did. Like we don't know what the best way to go is. And then influences by, either the United States or Soviet Union. They can pull you like, hey, be this, have these relations with us. We'll give you relations. We'll give you aid. We'll give you tanks, guns, we'll import stuff to you. So because of this, American government, this is going in the Reagan administration, they're kind of spooked. They're like, because again, we have national interests there, economic interests there. They're worried that these Sandinistas will then nationalize the industry we have down there, which I think ended up happening. Fortunately for the Americans, there was a group called the Contras, not like the video game.
Great game. Great Nintendo
Although
game.
I think the last level of that is called Sandinista, even though it's like deals like aliens and stuff like that. But anyways, so the Contras weren't one sole group. They were like a federation, a combination of multiple groups who all had the idea of overthrowing the current Sandinista government. They were more right-wing, which politically would align with the United States government. By this being the case with the Contras, the United States could still have an in protecting their economic interests.
So it's the Sandinistas versus the Contras.
Yes, yeah. Sandinistas left-wing, more communist, socialist. Contras more right-wing, more democratic. They align better with the United States ideals than obviously the communists do. So by that being the case, we'll help these people out. Well, we didn't do it indirectly. We more or less just kind of give them, supply them with weapons. I don't know much about tanks, but we'd give them weapons and train, I would train some of these people. So this is not conspiracy theory right now. This factually happened. Right. It's things we've done before. So just like the Cuban, not Cuban Missile Crisis, but the Bay of Pigs. We tried to help overthrow Castro and it in a blunder. We did it before with the Afghans against the Soviet Union. We supplied them with tanks, jets, rockets, all that good stuff. Obviously didn't work out very well for us in the long run, but this is not something new that the United States decided to do.
Or Russia.
Yeah. This has been going on, not just the United States or, Soviet Union. This is something that's always gone on, like clandestine, not necessarily clandestine, but like
I'm sure France
protecting your own interests.
Yes,
this is nothing new. So this is not part of the conspiracy theory. And again, we're dealing with the Soviet Union. Like, remember all those movies we'd grow up, you'd see, like the enemy was always the Soviet Union, Rocky.
Yeah.
Like Red Dawn, they're all like. So
do you think with the current history that we're going to go back to that? Like, it's like there was in the early 2000s, it was always terrorists from
or cyber warfare and stuff like that. Oh yeah.
And then it was China.
Yeah.
And now China started watching movies, so now it's like we can't have China anymore. North Korea.
Did you see the new Top Gun movie?
No, but is that terrorists?
No, but it's definitely a country that's probably Russia, but they couldn't say that
because no one will watch it in Russia.
Maybe China too. Yeah. So again, we're still in the thick of the Cold War right now. Nuclear war is imminent, so it's like a chess game, a long-term chess game going on right now. So the United States is very interested in what would happen in Nicaragua.
Could you imagine being your job is like, all right, Bill, here's what you're gonna do for the next few weeks. You're gonna figure out how we can, help out the Contras. Like someone's job right now in military and the American military and other militaries around, the West is how can we screw over Russia and help Ukraine?
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
What can we do? And then like someone's job, like there's people sitting in a room, like not right now, but it's sitting in a room like days and days and days being like, okay, what are we gonna do with this? How can we do this? Here's a map. What can we do here, here, and here? Yeah. What kind of weapons can they use here? Like, there's a lot of jobs out there. There's a lot of people that do a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's crazy it's crazy we have so many people that work as engineers for roller coasters.
Well, sure. Yeah.
It's crazy the kind of where those people probably be used to like get clean water for, but there's no money in that.
But I couldn't imagine living this time because like the unknowing and just like the again, there's no actual war happening. They had some incidents, but like the imminent threat of nuclear war or all the secrecy and the spying and like maybe it's because all the spy movies I watched growing up. Yeah. But like, I don't know. It just seems
I think for
terrifying.
There was an article, and this is a little off topic, but on topic, but jumping ahead. There was an article that was written by a spy from the Soviet Union that was, it's kind of around the time they found that the Americans, that show, and like that girl who was a Russian spy that moved to America, that was based on this girl or this woman at the time. And there was an article written by another guy who was an actual spy too. And he was like, they kind of just dropped us off and they said, good luck. And, the way he didn't really divulge like how they communicate and stuff, but like there was tons of people that were from Russia.
Oh, moles, yeah.
That were just living here trying to like do a little bit like in this industry. And we obviously, it's not just one side. Like we do that same thing too.
Yeah, yeah.
Every country seems to do it in one way or another.
Yeah, it's always going on.
It's always gone on.
Spying,
that whole, yes.
There's that show Washington Spies that was on like History Channel, I think it was called.
Okay.
During the Revolutionary War.
Oh, Turn was another. It was like the show about it.
I think that might be it.
Yeah, Washington Spies. Yeah, that was on AMC.
I don't know. I just find that stuff fascinating. I'd be terrible at it. I'd be dead. Okay, so we're dealing with the 80s, but unfortunately in 1985, Congress passes something called the Boland Amendment that doesn't allow the United States to give aid anymore to the Contras in Nicaragua. Maybe they're worried about it being coming out of Vietnam kind of war.
Oh, there's all that specter
there. Yeah. These times have changed since World War II going into this point. Like, and I'll go into that a little bit. So this amendment gets passed. We can't help the Contras anymore. Reagan's cabinet finds a loophole in something called the Iran-Contra affair. Have you ever heard of this?
Yes. I have it was in a Family Guy episode, I believe.
Okay.
And just, from not paying attention to history class in high school or not, listening to history teachers nowadays, it's always a big thing in modern history, this kind of thing. It kind of is always the conspiracy theory people, like that group.
Yeah.
Love this as one of like, look, they did this. Why wouldn't they be doing this? Like as like a doorway to like these other theories and how you can make things seem true, which obviously I have no idea what the hell's going on. But it is always used, the Iran-Contra. Yeah. What's it called? Affair.
So I remember like
that and Watergate are like the two like.
Yeah. I remember there was also the Iran hostage crisis that happened, but that was a few years before this. But again, we're dealing with terrorism and hostage situations. So Iran at this time is at war with Iraq. It's Iraq invaded Iran because they're worried about Iran, who is Shiite. Iraq was Sunni. Anyways, they're at war. But there was a trade embargo on Iran. Like no one could give them weapons or anything like that because of what happened. I think mostly because of the previous hostage situation. But again, going back to the Boland Amendment, people in Reagan's cabinet found a way, like a loophole. So they were like, hey, we're going to supply weapons to Iran.
Again, lawyer sat down and was like, look, we can do it for this. Like
exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been getting in trouble. Reagan didn't. Everyone said he didn't have knowledge of this, but there were people in his cabinet. So like, hey, we'll give you weapons if you release these hostages, because the people we had, sorry, I didn't explain this earlier. They're hostages that were in Lebanon. Now, I know it's a different country than Iran because it's called Iran-Contra affair, but Lebanon and Iran were very close because they're sect of Islam. The hostages, in the long run, the hostages didn't get released, but the money we got from Iran, the the Reagan administration, people in his cabinet, found a way to use that money to send to the Contras in Nicaragua.
Just send them money?
Yeah.
Oh, like
to send the money to help further.
Not like weapons, but just cash.
To cash, yeah. To purchase weapons.
Okay.
And yeah. So there's a term for it. I can't remember what it is. So they found this loophole. Basically, they took money that they sent to that they got from the Iranian government to release these citizens. That money was secretly used then, like this wasn't known to the general public, secretly used then to keep funding the Contras in Nicaragua. So they found a loophole. So it turns out like that loophole is probably not necessarily a loophole, but they did something illegal.
Okay.
But then this gets found out, everything blows up, and they keep trying to find ways to get money to these Contras.
So they're just trying. The government, basically, this administration is trying to fund the Contras any way they can to overthrow or to stop the Sandinistas.
Yes, because again, the Cold War they were so fearful of communism spreading in the United States, or possibly being outpowered by the USSR, because when they get to say Cuba, the Cuban Missile Crisis. There's these satellite photos taken, or satellite plane photos taken of possible missiles being placed there. So this is all within range of the United States. So it's kind of terrifying.
Or it sounded terrifying to the people of America.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And I'm sure at the other end, the Russian people were also terrified of America having missiles.
We're doing the power circle thing too. Like
they're doing the same thing we're doing.
Yeah. We're doing the same thing they're doing. Yeah. So sorry. Thank you for clarifying that. I don't want to make it seem like this one-sided thing.
I mean, for us as growing up in America, it is one-sided.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're taught. But it's always, I like to hear the stories about we hear the stories in American history classes about the World War II, and it's about when America entered and what was going on before, mostly from what the British and the French were doing against Hitler. Yeah. But then you have you listen to someone from Russia and they talk about what they learned about the World War II and how Russia basically saved the day, which
they kind of did.
I mean, but if you look at it, if you zoom out and look at everybody came together as a world to fight back.
It was a united effort. Yeah.
And also Germany was falling. Germany didn't just spread themselves way too thin.
Well, they decided to invade Russia, which you should never do because no one ever wins it. Like of Napoleon. So this gets found out, but we're still somehow supporting these Contras. No one knows how this is where are we getting this money from? Congress says we can't do this anymore. We try to do this the Reagan administration trying to do this backwards thing of taking money from this exchange with the Iranians for hostages, for giving them guns. And then we don't know. People are where's this money coming from? So people start saying maybe drug trafficking is happening because they start seeing in California, primarily Los Angeles, that crack cocaine is becoming a thing.
Man, we're checking all the boxes here.
Yeah, so it's kind of again, that whole thing with the Iran-Contra controversy, that's 100% factual. That happened. Now we're going back again into conspiracy theory kind of thing.
Okay, so
there are rumblings that people are well, where's this money coming from? If we're not allowed to help them, how are we still helping them?
Right.
Again, the CIA was told they can't do this anymore. They were training these people. They weren't directly involved, but they were training the Contras. So several investigative journalists start looking into this, these rumors that possibly the CIA is being involved in drug trafficking to fund the selling of drugs in the United States, or allowing the selling of drugs in the United States by South Americans, possibly Nicaraguans, in order to fund their own fight against the
Sandinistas.
Sandinistas, thank you.
So it's conspiracy theory that we're on a conspiracy side when we say
we're getting into that
drug trafficking.
Yeah, we're getting that right now. Now, yes, there was glimmers of crack cocaine becoming an issue or being around in this time, as a new thing in the United States. Again, we're in the 80s. We all know what ended up happening with that, it ended up becoming an epidemic. But now we're getting conspiracy theory because people are well, how's this being funded? So people start asking questions maybe there's drug trafficking going on. So there were some investigative reporters who looked into this, didn't really find anything, but there was enough national interest in this that the United States Senate was maybe we should investigate this. So their own U.S. government was just let's look into this. So after 3 years, they did find out that Nicaraguans were doing some kind of drug trafficking in the United States. The CIA knew about it, but weren't directly involved.
Okay.
So again, that is factual.
Partially true. So it's like conspiracy theory, but that's
so like,
easy to connect.
Yeah, right. Like they probably, they knew it was happening, but they weren't facilitating it.
Okay.
They might have had other things worried about, on their plate as far as like, again, the Cold War, national security, and all that stuff.
So the drug trafficking is happening,
but they're not.
They're not directly
involved. And that was kind of the end of it. And then you have along in 1996. So this is since 89, 96. Several years later, you have this investigative journalist come along. He's like, no, there's more to this story. Enter Gary Webb.
So it's story of the Iran-Contra.
No, there's more the story of the drug trafficking.
Okay.
Like there's possible
of how they were funding this.
Possible actual CIA involvement, not just knowing of it happening, but allowing it to happen and possibly facilitating it.
Okay.
Because prior to that, the U.S. government, other investigators, like, no, there's nothing there. They know it's happening, but they're not actually doing anything about it. So a gentleman named Gary Webb comes along. He's an investigative journalist. He's been around for several years, bouncing around the United States, doing, small town pieces about earthquakes and stuff like that. But he won awards for his investigative journalism. So he's, I wouldn't say necessarily well established, but he seems legit. He gets hired by.
So he's not just some guy that
schmuck. Yeah.
He's not some
internet guy. Like it's just like,
or he's not some like just small town guy that just all of a sudden got this like.
He was a small town, but
break.
He made it. He paid his dues. Like right. He knew what he was doing. So he gets hired by the San Jose Mercury News. It's in California for people who don't live in the United States. In 1996, he wrote a series of articles called Dark Alliance. At this time, internet was starting to take off. So the San Jose Mercury News, they posted not only in the paper, but they posted online. So this is kind of one of like the early instances of the internet being used for information through like a news website. Again, they're not big like the Washington Post or anything like that, but it's kind of a smaller paper. Like, hey, we're going to put some graphics on the screen. We have audio files of testimonies. You can read the article there. So it's kind of a new thing. So this caught on.
The internet?
Well, yeah, obviously.
The internet caught on? Whoa.
Obviously the internet caught on, yeah. For better or for worse. But something this big and then something this damning.
So this story kind of went viral?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Before there was viral,
before the social media kind of thing started, this was a website, a newspaper website, or a news website.
So he wrote several articles in a series called Dark Alliance, which eventually published into a book later on down the road. But he kind of corroborated the idea that the CIA knew something was going on. Not only that, but they actually were facilitating all of this. So he had people's names.
Facilitating the selling of drugs.
Yes.
Okay.
He had people's names, people that were already known to be, or were eventually known to be big-time drug dealers and drug traffickers. And that possibly they're on the CIA's payroll.
Okay.
So he's saying the CIA not only knew about this stuff, but was allowing it to happen. Not only allowing it to happen, but also making it happen.
Facilitating.
Helping these people, like financially. And so
they were like laundering money the opposite way. They were dirtying that money up. Griming it up.
So he named a couple people. One guy's name was Freeway Ricky Ross.
Yes. Freeway
Ricky Ross. He's out of L.A. He became this guy.
If I have another kid, Freeway is his first name.
I don't know if you ever heard the rapper named Rick Ross. He named himself after this guy.
Oh, really?
Because like for a long time, rappers were like, "Oh, I'm a drug dealer," like for
so this is
credibility.
This is like
he's super well. This guy was super well known in the Los Angeles scene, and apparently he went on for years and years and years without getting caught. He was one of the biggest sellers of drugs, of crack or cocaine or crack cocaine, depending on I guess how it's made or distributed. In Los Angeles, like what people ever like he was notorious, but he kept doing this for years and like he never got caught. So people were like, "How's this dude not getting caught? Like, is he being protected?" So he actually did end eventually getting caught. And he kind of turned an informant.
So they were using him.
So they're using him, yeah. But a lot of people were like, well, wait, why? How would this guy keep getting away with this stuff? keep evading the police for like, I think it was almost a decade. Like, and he's that well known if he doesn't have someone helping him out.
Yeah, it seems like the bigger your operation gets, one, they probably know about it anyway in most cases, especially in this time.
Sure.
Two, I mean, how can it get that big unless you have some type, you're doing something, I would imagine.
Right. So you have the Freeway Ricky Ross. Rick Ross.
Yep.
But he was in LA. So where's he getting the drugs from then? So there were, again, this guy was 100% real person, 100% influential in the whole crack cocaine selling in the 1980s, early 90s. But how's he getting the drugs?
Was this in the article?
This is real life. Like this dude actually like did this stuff. But
was all this broken in the article?
This, I believe it was, yeah.
Okay.
But then there's two other gentlemen. So so he's.
So what I'm saying is like the early internet had freeway Ricky Ross on this news website.
No, this guy was already known, I think, before this. But I think what might have been known, at least to the American public, were these two other gentlemen who were Nicaraguan refugees who left during the Sandinista takeover. They supported the Contras, but they were essentially drug traffickers and drug runners.
When did the Contra thing end?
And so the Sandinistas lost power in 1996, 97. So they were only around, I think they're only mostly around for 20 years.
Okay. So the Contras lost their whole thing with the Sandinistas, and the Sandinistas were in power?
So yes, Sandinistas were in power, I think until like 1990. So yeah, I think overall, yeah. So the Contras lost. There was a ceasefire that took place because Russia, eventually Soviet Union and the United States, just completely backed off. But the Sandinistas were ended up being voted out around like 1990. So the Contras didn't lose, but they did. Like,
was it kind of the same thing as happened with like the fall of the Soviet Union?
Yeah,
around the same time.
Yeah.
So maybe there was like, oh crap, we don't have no one to help us now.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
It's more complicated than that, obviously. I'm trying to simplify.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Contras lost, but I think what ended up happening was because a Democratic vote happened. So, in the long game, they won, I guess you can say.
Gotcha. So, these two guys
from
Nicaragua.
Freeway Ricky Ross, and then you have two guys from Nicaragua. They were supporters. They were refugees. They came to the United States. But they're supporters of the Contras. But they learned how to. They were farm. One of them was a farmer. But they also, in time, they learned how to grow and sell crack cocaine. So they are the ones. According this is true. They did take part into smuggling crack cocaine in the United States. But again, this is when you get on the conspiracy theory side. Gary Webb is saying that the United States allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
So these guys are three real guys. They did big time smugglers and drug traffickers and pushers of drugs. But Gary Webb is saying the CIA knew about this, and not only that, but like helped them do this. So this comes out again. This is on the internet, so that like it's hitting a new audience and it's catching on quick. So more people than not are like seeing news because of the internet, right?
The information age is born.
Yeah.
With Gary Webb. His name's Gary. So there
you go.
Gary Webb in the internet.
Yeah.
This is
huge.
So maybe we just broke another conspiracy thing. So it's not
Mystery
it wasn't
solved, baby.
Gary Webb was the CIA.
Right. Yeah. Ooh. Oh.
Come on, Gary Webb.
So
it's right there.
Yeah. He even said like by this since this technology happened, since what we did at the Mercury News, they made them a bigger player compared to like the Wall Street Journal or like Washington Post, New York Post, LA Times. Like it made a more even playing field. Like not only that, but like they're more successful because, at least at this moment, because they weren't really doing that stuff yet, or didn't have that hot of a story yet to put online.
Because
this is in Silicon Valley.
Right.
So they're right there when all this stuff is happening, so they could take advantage of that. It's in San Jose.
So they're not
the forefront of this stuff.
The internet's taken off, but they're starting to sell more.
Yeah.
more well known.
Getting more clicks,
Yeah.
more views, because they have all this stuff really because they're right there in Silicon Valley. So more people are seeing this. And so eventually, again, this is 96, the crack epidemic started in the 80s. So you have all these low-income areas, people and communities who have just been devastated by this. And they're reading this stuff. And they're like, oh, wait, this is pretty damning evidence against the U.S. government, if this is true. And a lot of them believe that to be the case. And it's kind of understandable just because throughout history, again, not necessarily in the United States, but throughout history, there's always somebody or groups of people who don't necessarily trust their own government, right? It's not
for good or bad.
Yeah, for good or bad. But particularly in the 60s, in the United States, a lot of people it was the treatment of minorities, the assassination of Martin Luther King and JFK, the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, the government covering up things and stuff like that. Like people are starting to distrust the government. It seems like
more than
ever, especially now with television. They're seeing firsthand what some of these wars are like, or what these protests are like, or sit-ins are like, and what happens to these people.
So I mean, this is the rise of social media. We still see this today.
Yeah.
We see social media. Everybody can be a reporter now. Everybody can see and say anything and put the information out there. And we see how too much information could actually be detrimental when it comes, especially with conspiracy theories, because now anybody
can write
say
about anything. Yeah.
But this is obviously a newspaper.
Yeah. And the investigative journalists are the ones who are figuring this stuff out, the Watergate scandal and all that stuff. So the faith, it seems like the faith in, again, we had to live there at this point, but the faith in media is more so than the faith in the government. So it's kind of understandable to have that line of thinking that maybe the United States government is responsible for this horrible thing that happened to us, in these communities, since bad things have happened to them in the past. So the theory of the United States government being responsible for this crack cocaine epidemic, you can see why some people might think this way just because of what happened to them in the past, when they saw what going on in the world, or what happened in their very own communities. So it's not necessarily unreasonable for some people to think this way. But then some people kind of took it as the U.S. government was doing it intentionally to destroy these communities. As in wipe them out, get rid of them, because they're these poor communities and stuff like that. So again, that kind of goes even further in conspiracy theory. I'm not disagreeing with that, because that whole crack epidemic was terrible. So this comes out, people start thinking this way. Big publications like LA Times, New York Post, Washington Post, they start looking at these reports and start finding certain inconsistencies, such as and they're deep diving.
Inconsistencies in his Gary Webb's story?
In his story, in his Dark Alliance.
So it wasn't in the story in general, it was Gary Webb's stories.
Gary Webb's stories, yeah. They looked in the past and they didn't really find much to see a correlation between the United States government and drug trafficking in the United States. So after he says this, big time newspapers start looking into it. And this kind of gets where it gets a little weird. So either they're doing this for due diligence or to get the right story out there, or they're personally attacking him. So Gary Webb thinks they're personally attacking me. He thinks that they are stooges for the United States government. The United States government is making them do this kind of type of thing. Because one of them had 17 people investigating his whole story.
Just this one guy.
Just one guy in his book. And I guess some of the people thought that they were told to personally attack and discredit this guy. So again, this is kind of hearsay, he said, she said kind of stuff. But
of course, he would feel that way, and
you feel attacked, you felt he did honest work. So for a minute there, his newspaper was kind of backing him up, and all this criticism is coming from these bigger newspaper publications, because the San Jose Mercury was not that big, but these big time news publications have been around for a long time. They're saying there might be something here, that there might be some poor reporting or inconsistencies, or this isn't checking out. So for a minute there, Mercury's backing him up, and then they kind of do their own investigation and see that, again, there are some inconsistencies with timelines and certain testimonies. Again, these testimonies you can hear on their website, but eventually they start kind of taking this stuff down. They start kind of distancing themselves from them. thinking that, there might not be totally 100% factual. And so it kind of rubs him the wrong way. He resigns, eventually publishes these stories into a book, redoes some of them, like not necessarily redoes, but like puts more information in to give it more of like credibility.
Yep.
People look at,
especially it's hard to, like newspapers, magazines, like they have editors to cut stuff out.
Sure,
to make this story not only sell,
right.
but interesting, makes sense. It's back. I mean, it seems like if he's able to add the stuff back in, maybe it would have been helpful there in the first place.
Yeah. And I get like, a lot of times with like just media in general, like it's the flashy stuff that sells.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and this is certainly flashy.
Look at the story of Randall Randolph Hearst and Pulitzer and what they were doing. I mean, all he did was make some bold letters to sell more papers than the other guy. I think Hearst was out in California, and Pulitzer was in New York.
Oh yeah.
And then their battle was all about. There's a great documentary about this, but like Hearst just like, hey, we're gonna make really big letters on the front, and
smart.
And then people were like, oh yeah, exactly. And that's all he did was make titles and stuff. It was like, so it was more. People accused him of being salacious or whatever you would say in that. I don't know if that's the correct word, but saying that, and we see this today. We see it with every single time it rains. We're like, oh my God, the biggest storm ever.
Yeah. And
then you don't even know if you're supposed to run or not.
Yeah.
Which is what drives me nuts. For better or worse, I mean, news is very important. We need the news.
Sure.
But sometimes some ways it could
teeter one way or the other.
Right. Just to get views because they're kind of, they're in battles right now on the internet. I mean, internet news on the internet is, I mean, what happened in Canada recently?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where I don't think Facebook can't put news up there anymore unless they pay.
Okay. Yeah.
There's all these different, so there's, who knows how it's going out, but like the internet way of like, people aren't buying newspapers anymore. How do these companies make money?
Okay.
And if you go to any newspaper, especially the big ones, you have to pay for all the stuff is gated, and that's always been
there's like subscription,
lots of subscriptions for like the news that like might actually be helpful, which drives me nuts. Like you can go to any like small time 2-bit news operation and you can read any article for free because there's 1,000 ads, but all the information might be that might not be the right information. Most of it's probably written by AI nowadays.
Yeah,
and then you go to like Washington Post or you go to like New York Times. It's like read. It seems like every time I click on an article, it's like 3
articles this month.
Yeah, like
2.
Well, not even that. It's like I always are out of articles. I was like, I never go to this website. How am I out of articles already? So it's like
they're also trying to survive though too.
That's what I'm trying to say is like, but the stuff that you actually probably need to know that was important to like stuff. Learn, and you can actually solve some of these conspiracy theory problems running amok on the internet.
Yeah.
Try to figure out a way to get those people paid to get those companies some money.
Yeah. It's tough. So
it's a business, but we have no idea what's going on. I'm not saying I'm a businessman.
So the Mercury News ends up publishing a retraction because I think they're getting pressure because they're small town, not
pressure from their
from their like their peers.
People give them money. And they're probably their parent company.
Sure, and then the LA Times, New York Times, and Washington Post are saying, hey, there's some things in here that aren't really totally accurate, or might be kind of a little loose with the facts kind of thing. So there's a divide that happens between Webb and the Mercury News. He ends up resigning. He publishes a book in 1998. Again, showing some new findings, but again, that gets picked apart. So what's happening is in
he has to sell books. So.
Yeah. But he ends up not really no one wants to hire him anymore at this point because he just keeps going on and on. He keeps getting dragged out. He keeps saying stuff back, defending himself, which he should. If he stands by his work, he should stand by it. I'm glad he did because he's proud of it. But eventually, he can't get work anymore in the newspaper. I forget what he ends up doing. So this is kind of where it gets a little bit even more dark.
I like you prefaced the dark with a little chuckle. Darkness.
Because now that we're dark enough with this. So can't get any work anymore.
It's been so bright so far.
Gets into a depression. And in 2004, discovered that he committed suicide. So I came across, the whole way I came across this was I was on the internet. It's probably on Reddit. There's probably some meme saying Gary Webb was this guy. He
is the internet.
Yeah.
Gary Webb.
He created the internet, for one, and then two.
Bill Gates, Gary Webb. You ever seen him in the same place? Nope.
And two, he created that. Two, he came across like the drug trafficking and CIA was involved with, caused a crack epidemic. And he was, his death was murdered or suicide, even though he was shot twice. I was like, okay, well, that's a lot. That's saying a lot right there. So I'm going to look into this some more because I'd never heard of this guy before.
Shot twice and a suicide.
Yeah. He shot himself twice in a suicide.
It's probably like shot like from the back of his head. Like.
And I was like, I never heard of this guy. So I'm, I want to look this up because I'm, interested in it. But I was like, but what got me most was like how did he shoot himself twice in a suicide? Because I looked in it, he shot himself twice in the head. It was a 38 caliber revolver. I'm not sure. Is that a lower caliber gun?
No.
But I feel like either way, you put a gun to your head, you can't shoot yourself twice and kill yourself and not kill yourself the first time.
Especially if you're shooting him in the head. I mean,
yeah. So I was like, okay, maybe there is something here. Did this guy really, that's where I want to grow in all this. Did this guy really stumble across something with the CIA? Was he, did he know too much and the CIA was done dealing with him and trying to suppress him from keep telling his story? Were these big newspapers really part of the CIA cover up of this thing? So
the mystery is, did he kill himself or did he commit suicide?
Well, that's the same thing. Did he kill himself or commit suicide?
I stand by that.
So
did he kill himself?
So that's kind of a twofold thing because obviously, we did the CIA thing. That there's a little bit of mystery conspiracy there. But the big mystery though is did he commit suicide or was he?
Did he kill himself?
Or did he kill himself? Or was he murdered or assassinated?
Okay.
And I think, and I'll go over to kind of what
the theories,
what was left behind and how he left a note. But I think in order to believe that he was assassinated, you need to believe that the CIA did in fact take this big of a part into the drug trafficking and was the facilitator of the crack epidemic that happened in the United States
to fund this.
Yeah, otherwise why would he be?
There's this 20. We're going from 79 to 2004.
Yeah, there's
until he writes first article, which was in 98?
96.
96.
Yeah.
So you have how many years? 17 years.
Yeah, 18 years. And it goes on for more years after that because he's kind of defending himself and publishes a book in 98, coming up with more findings. He's still defending himself. People are constantly asking questions about this, about the book, and people are, at his death, a lot of people were saying he's a martyr, but a lot of people were saying, not so he's a fraud, but he was discredited and kind of was living in shame. So, but I think, but in order to think that he was assassinated, you have to pair that with the fact, or believe the fact that the CIA did in fact do all these things that he claimed they did.
So, assassination and murder are two different instances of what could have happened. Two different,
or assassination or suicide.
Suicide, assassination, or murder.
Yeah. So I'm saying, I would say you would have to agree that in order to be assassinated, the CIA stuff had to have happened that he claims, or he did commit suicide because no one believed him, even though the stuff did happen, or he just committed suicide because he felt disgraced or depressed about everything that transpired after that, being discredited and no one wanted to hire him, kind of being I wouldn't say pariah, but.
I mean, mental health wasn't a very focus of anybody at the time.
No, yeah, I didn't think about that. That's definitely true. So I'll just say that because I think that's kind of important things to think about when you're trying to think one versus the other. So he kills himself supposedly 2004. He had sent 4 suicide letters to families.
Okay. 4 suicides to family. Yep. 2 family members.
They were typed up. Taped a note to his front door saying, "Please do not enter. Call 911 for assistance. Thank you."
These are all printed. They weren't. He isn't handwritten.
So the suicide letters were definitely printed. I'm not sure about the note on the door.
Okay.
I guess they were in the process of moving, and so a lot of his stuff was packed up. Some things that awards he had were packed up.
Was he?
He had his ID out next to him, his social security card.
Was he married or anything?
He was married. Yeah, he married, had kids. He left his motorcycle key for his son. I'm guessing obviously no one was home when this happened, but they were in the process of moving. And I think he was hoping that into suicide or in the murder attempt, that like the mover, I think that they're supposed to be moving the next day or something like that, and they would find the note on the door and be like, telling the movers don't come in, or a neighbor or his wife or kid, just call the police. But yeah, so he had a stuff packed away, obviously because they're moving, but he has ID next to him, social security card. I think he had like his will or something saying he wanted to be cremated. Sent these letters to his family members, put a note on the door, and there was a .38 caliber revolver next to him. So it gets posted that he had died by 2 gunshots at the time of his death in 2004. But they didn't say, I don't believe they said it was a suicide. Or when things got like printed online or in papers.
It was reported that.
Or they did, but they said there was 2 shots, and people were like, well, how's that? I think that's what it was, yeah. It was reported that he was committed suicide by 2 shots to the head. And people were just like, well, how the hell is that possible? So the coroner got all these calls like flooded in, like, how's this possible? How's this possible? How do you not kill yourself on the first shot? But I guess it's it is possible. There's a very small window, like percentage of that happening. But according to the coroner's report, though,
I mean, you could definitely get shot in the head. I mean, it's definitely happened.
It's happened.
He
Yeah,
could
but
have missed.
it's such a but there were 2 wounds,
especially point blank. I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I know someone that has been shot in the head before, and the bullet still lodged in his face.
Oh my God!
So this is someone from high school.
It's still lodged in his face.
I mean, I saw him years later, and it was like something we talked about how it.
Damn.
Yeah. So.
Jeez.
I can't even remember how it happened. I'm sure it was something terrible, but that type of thing is possible.
Okay.
But I don't know if it was point blank.
Right. Yeah. And like, imagine if you don't hit a certain.
Right. It could have ricocheted off a skull. Who knows?
Right. So the coroner's office getting all these like calls and like questions like, how is this possible? How is this possible? How is this possible? Again, because people were, keep in mind, people were at this time, even before he passed, people thought everything he was saying, a lot of people thought what he was saying was true. And they see that he died by suicide by 2 shots. And like, that can't be possible. So the coroner comes out and says that like when he pulled the trigger, the bullet sliced. So he put it to his right side of his head. He pulled the trigger, the bullet sliced down through his face, exiting through his left cheek.
Okay.
So that's could be one reason, that's not going to kill you.
It's a very lucky bullet.
A non-fatal wound.
Yeah.
And again, he pulled the trigger again. The second shot, coroners believe nicked an artery and just bled out. So then I was like, okay, maybe, it is possible to, I guess, not kill yourself with the first bullet to the head. But it's like I said, to this day, a lot of people think he is a martyr. Other people say he was a good reporter, but he was kind of loose with the facts. And that he just kind of eventually became depressed from not being able to get work, from his reputation being kind of smudged or dragged through the mud by some of his peers. And he thought maybe the government was trying to do the same thing with him.
So his article specifically talked about how the government was involved in drug trafficking and the epidemic, the drug epidemic in America.
Yeah.
And that they facilitated, helped all of this to fund
the Contras. Yeah.
And that even after the Contras lost, it still went on.
Yes, the Contras lost.
Or like this whole thing, obviously in the 80s and stuff like that. So this was all going on in that it still was allowed to happen.
Yeah.
So he digs all this up, is loose with the facts maybe, kills himself, or is murdered, either way. Theories that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
He was killed or he committed suicide.
Yeah.
There's no in between. Or in general.
Yeah. Then that's what I was saying earlier. Like, if you believe that he was killed, you'd almost kind of have to believe that there was something going on with the CIA.
Yes.
Or, so the people I mentioned earlier, the 3 guys that he supposedly talked to or knew about that were part of this drug ring outside the CIA, they all claim that, well, their lawyers, well, at least Free Ray Ricky, lawyers claim that like he had nothing to do with any of that stuff. Ricky
he was just by the books.
Yeah.
By the books, drug trafficking.
Your friendly neighborhood crack dealer, yeah. I think that's what I think that's what it was like. Apparently, like that's another thing. People are like, did he actually talk to any of these guys?
I mean, he's not gonna lie. Come on,
But
he's
like,
not gonna lie to
right.
reporters.
Like and Rick Ross was, I think at this time in the 90s, he was already in prison.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's why people are like, did you actually talk to him, or who'd you talk to? Did you talk to the lawyer? And like, is the lawyer actually gonna?
Did he lie to his lawyer?
Yeah. Is the lawyer actually going to admit this, like say this to you? Because by doing so, you can hurt his, his defendant, person he's lawyering for, because this guy's already in prison. Let's not add more time onto his sentence.
Right. Don't incriminate himself.
Yeah. By having to admit this. So, I mean, that's a possibility too. But yeah, so he was in prison. He's out now. And then the two other guys are both in prison now, I believe, in Nicaragua. Because they eventually were caught.
Trafficking.
Yeah. I think one did like 20 years. He might be out now, but yeah, they were all caught. And again, these are all real people. They did these things. That's not like this.
They definitely sold crack, but who knows the reason for it?
Right.
The
two Nicaraguans, they were doing it to support the Contras. So the only real thing here is what I feel like what Gary Webb is saying is that the CIA
was involved in
it.
So that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
CIA is either involved or not involved in this trafficking and distribution and things like that.
Or maybe, I just not thought of this, maybe, he's throwing out some names out there. Maybe these people are like, this dude needs to shut up. Not the CIA, but like maybe one of these drug cartels. I'm like, this guy needs to shut up.
Yeah. I mean, you figure at this point in time, in the 90s though, I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure people report on drug stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's crazy. There's like documentaries about like the drug cartels and stuff like that. And you're just like, what are these guys doing? Like these reporters are going down there and talking to like,
yeah, it's insane. Cause the amount of power these guys had, especially in South America, like,
and you're going to allow them to write a story. Yeah.
Like the government was afraid of these people and they're like, I'm gonna go down there and talk to these people.
So if you think of, for me, I'm thinking about the death, like the scene, the scene of the crime, like where he died, or the scene. He has a note, right, sent out.
4 notes sent out to family members.
His last will or his that was laying next to him or something. Yeah. So he had all this preparation.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You could say, well,
it seems very, very methodical. Like he
had something on the door.
Yeah.
One, his wife would probably, his family would be the first to say if that's him or not. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that's definitely what he would do.
Yeah.
Or he's not that. He's so absent-minded. Like he would never think of doing these things. It's like the CIA that would do this will be like, that's the CIA I think is out there. Like the CIA that would like plant all this stuff. The movie CIA.
That's what I thought too. I was like, well,
they're the ones that would plant
totally
this.
do.
Yeah. It's like,
but that's based on like movies and
But we don't know,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so we don't know. It could be that's exactly what
Yeah.
happened. They killed him. The drug trafficking, the drug side of it, that seems too methodical for.
Let's say if there's like a drug cartel, they just be like, just shoot him and like leave.
Yeah, because no one's gonna find them anyway.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Him killing himself is also believed. So you have like this someone at the mental health disorder, mental health thing, depression that no one really understands or knows about at this point. Like they understand, but they don't really. It's not really a focus. Like it's almost, and we know growing up in this time, it's that type of mental health stuff is like frowned upon. It's like you're supposed to be hidden. It's not supposed to be talked about in open.
Shove it down and way down.
Get on with it.
Do drugs.
Self-medicate. Yeah. But it seems like the cool CIA that would do something like that methodical, that clear, in a house they're moving out of. Yeah. Like they're starting over a new house, like perfect timing. Yeah. The note on the door. Was there his fingerprints on? I mean, if it was the CIA and they did this, they probably would put his fingerprints on it. That type of like, copied his fingerprints type of thing. Like,
oh right, yeah. I don't know about the fingerprint stuff, but I do know like his wife does believe that he actually did commit suicide.
Okay, and that makes it. She would know.
Yeah, like she'd been saying like he's been like kind of off for a while and seemed kind of depressed and.
But it could be that thing that we saw, that was reported on the. Was it Operation Blue Book or one of it was not Operation Blue Book. The one that was about using mind control. The CIA using mind control.
Was that the KMFDM thing or whatever that was? They were using like hallucinogens for like testing mind control or
and so that guy, the person that they were doing that to, that eventually died or jumped out a window or whatever he did, whatever that story was, which we may cover someday.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
They were just playing a mind game with that guy.
Yeah,
and they were messing with him to a point where he just thought he was
right.
Like they were just like if you listen to like the actual story, the books and stuff that written about it, and from my remembering different stories I've heard about, it's like that guy was just. They were just screwing with him.
I'm glad you brought that. Yeah, because this is like this things that they've done. Like this is not all around.
They could have made him depressed.
Yeah, this is not all around of like they've done studies, scientific studies to see like how long a person do without like water and stuff like that, like torturing and stuff like that, like mind control, like drugs and stuff like that. So it's like it's not all around possibility to think if this was in fact true that they would go this far to like shut him up.
Right.
Yeah,
it's crazy that they would think it's a great story because it could go like I think it's equally right. The common part, like his wife obviously be the best judge to say if it was yes or no, but it's just so perfect of how it ended as far as like how everything was set up that it could be either or.
Yeah.
Like they could have been drugging him and he could have been depressed because of the drugs they were giving him, or like something like it could have been something like that, or like they were messing with him so bad that he was getting depressed because he couldn't get them off his back.
Right.
He stumbled upon something. They just were like, "You need to do this for us." And he just got dragged him down.
And there's the thing, like he generally did believe that like these larger newspapers, like the LA Times, New York Post, and the other ones were actually in the pocket
of the CIA.
Like they kind of had their best interests in mind rather than actually reporting the news, like and the facts and stuff like that. So like that was in his head since they started attacking him. Could that have been a ploy on their part too? Like, who the hell knows?
Right. They again, the CIA dumping doing like feeding information in the not necessarily to the detriment of or not necessarily to like these
credibility of
of the reporters. They could have been just reporting on what they were being told by the people that are supposed to know.
Yeah.
But also, so I think it's an awesome way of an awesome story, an awesome way of looking at like a story from like, it could have been either or. And that's what's great. Yeah. It's not great. I mean, obviously a guy died.
Right. Because
his life was ruined. His family suffered.
But like I was saying, as soon as I saw that meme, I was like, oh, this kind of like I was saying, like who doesn't die from 2 shots to the head, like and trying to commit suicide, like, and he knew the drug epidemic was a big thing. I've known the CIA to do like some clandestine or questionable things in the past, like you were talking about the drug experiment, but like, I was like, okay, maybe this could be a thing. And then I started looking in and I was like, well, if you have these major news publications are kind of like this guy, he's kind of be loose with some of these facts. His timelines aren't really, lining up, and some of the facts aren't as damaging as he thinks they are. And then like he was depressed. His wife said he was depressed, and it's kind of like I kept going this back and forth of just like what did happen,
right? And there's no one really. I mean, other than his wife, no one knows for sure.
Other than him, but we're not
exactly because he's dead. Yeah, but like we don't know, and even the story about if they were helping. The CIA was actually funding this. We don't know that story now, too. Yeah. That's another mystery about it.
Right.
So it's like 2 things have been kind of still left unanswered.
Yes.
All right. Well,
there you have it.
There you have it, everybody. Jordan.
Sorry to bring everyone down.
Yeah. I mean, this story had it all. It had drugs, assassinations, murder, suicide,
espionage.
Flipping or toppling governments and the Soviet Union.
Proxy wars, Cold War. Yeah.
You got really got what you paid for this one. So that is it for this episode. Thank you, Jordan, again for bringing it to us. We will be back with another episode.
Also this, Chris did that. Great
so
job.
We got yes, a little couple housekeeping things. We are in the process of getting things together. If you by watching these shows or listening to them, watching them first. If you watch on YouTube, you see that we have a new logo on our podcast feeds. You just see it. We have a logo. Actually, you're seeing the logos you're seeing a logo because we're not putting any episodes out until we have a logo officially. So the beginning of the video would have the logo. It would be in all of our social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, check it out. It looks like we're sitting in a celestial hot tub, just thinking
hanging
about the
out.
universe of mysteries, like we're out in space in a hot tub.
So we also have an introduction. We have music now. For the most, I think you probably heard that as well. You would have heard that. Though that information of the artist and stuff is going to be in the show notes, and we will start mentioning that in the next episode once we have that all. We're recording when we actually have that deal in place. But that is the end of our show for this week. And again, Jordan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please, everybody out there, follow us on social media. I think we probably have those up as well. Website, check the show notes by this point. Well, it's not up yet because we're waiting for a logo and waiting for all this stuff to come into place. By the time you hear this, it will definitely be available and it will be in the show notes. Anything else, Jordan?
Nope. Just burp. That's all I got.
Just a burp. That's all we got.
And for those of you who've been like sticking with us these past, like listening to these episodes or watching them, we appreciate it because we don't know.
No one maybe listens to us at all. It's probably just us talking to ourselves again.
But if you did, thank you. Appreciate it. Pass it along.
Yes, share the words. Rate us, review us, whatever the people in social media these days say. All the YouTube kids and things like that. And next week we will have another episode. I believe I'm up this time.
Do you know what you're gonna do?
It's a mystery.
Yep. Perfect. All right,
everybody. As we say, or might say, or probably have said at the end of every episode,
stay mysterious.
Stay mystery.
Stay mystery.
All right. Thank you again. Good night.